Hey y'all, welcome back and thanks for stopping by. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Stephanie, and today I have 6 1950s era vintage Christmas DIYs that are super quick and easy to make. This video is part of a very special collaboration, but I'll tell y'all about that here in a minute or two. So how about I stop rambling and jump right into DIY number 1. For this first project, I printed out a set of 1950s vintage Christmas cutouts onto a piece of cardstock and cut them out. I found this set on Google Images. Next, I took 4 of the tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and painted them with white Waverly chalk paint. Once the tumbling tower blocks were dry and I had all the images cut out, I hot glued 1 block to the back of each cutout so that they would stand up on their own. I used these 4 images, but you could use any images you like to create vintage stand-ups. Then to finish off this project, after I had the 4 cutouts standing up, I went back and bent the sides of each of the cutouts backwards a bit so that it would give the illusion that it's standing on its own and so that you couldn't see the tumbling tower blocks. That's it for this one, y'all. These turned out so cute and it took less than 20 minutes to make. You could use these on a tiered tray like I did or as little pieces of decor around your house. The possibilities are endless. As I mentioned earlier, this video is part of a special collaboration with 4 other extremely talented ladies. Brenda at Rustic and Lace DIY, Jackie from Crafting in Mimi's World, Brandy at Making It My Own, and Sarah at Jujubee DIY. I've joined forces with these ladies to bring y'all some vintage Christmas decor inspiration. So once you finish this video, be sure to hop on over to the playlist linked in the description box below and see what other amazing vintage projects these ladies have in store for y'all. Y'all won't be disappointed, I promise. I'll also drop a link in the description box to all the ladies' channels if y'all would like to go check them out. Also, if you're visiting from the playlist, thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy my vintage-inspired projects, and will click that subscribe button and stick around. It's a busy time of year, and my brain is overflowing with ideas for holiday projects. Now that I've said all that, let's go ahead and jump into DIY number 2. This project, I started with 2 of the smaller Santa gift boxes from Dollar Tree. These sort of look like little books to me, so that's what I'm going to turn them into. For the cover of the books, I went to Google and typed in vintage children's Christmas books and picked 2 little golden book covers that I liked the best that were published in or around the 1950s. I made sure to get a picture of the covers that looked worn and used and printed them out on regular printer paper, and then I cut them out. I used satin Mod Podge to attach the book covers to the gift boxes. I started by applying a generous amount of Mod Podge to the back of the book cover with a foam brush. Then I applied a generous amount of Mod Podge to the lid of the gift box. Once I had the Mod Podge on both the box lid and the book cover, I centered the book cover onto the lid and used my fingers to smooth out most of the wrinkles. But I did not mind a few wrinkles because I felt like it gave the book more character and made it look a little more used. After I had the cover on the lid, I went ahead and opened the lid and wiped away any of the excess Mod Podge that had squished out from under the cover. I also went ahead and folded in any of the cover that was sticking out past the lid and on the side of the box. I then repeated the same steps to adhere the other book cover to the lid of the other box. Once I had the covers on both boxes and the Mod Podge was dry, I went back in with some more satin Mod Podge and applied a generous amount on top of the covers to seal them and to make sure that all of the edges were completely adhered to the boxes. After the top coat of the Mod Podge was completely dry, I took some 150 grit sandpaper and sanded the entire outside of the box except for the lid. I really wanted it to look as if this book had been very well loved and vintage. I had no particular look I was going for, but I made sure to be a little heavier handed in random areas on the spine of the book as well as on the bottom of the book. I did this to both of the books. Here's how the book looked once I had all the areas sanded. To finish off these vintage Christmas books, I added a little dab of hot glue to the edge of the box and glued the lid shut. This step is completely optional, but I made these books to be displayed on my tiered tray and I didn't want them to be open when they were standing. I absolutely love how these vintage Christmas books turned out. I think I may have to go back to Dollar Tree and pick up a few more gift boxes and make a few more of these for my bookshelf. Moving right along to DIY number 3. For this project, I used one of the white Christmas trees from Dollar Tree. I started by putting the feet on the base of the tree so that it would stand. Then I went through and separated all of the tree branches so that they would be easier to spray paint. Next, I took the tree outside and gave it a coat of Rust-Oleum metallic finish spray paint and chrome. I made sure to also paint the base and the trunk of the tree. Here's how the tree looked once the paint was dry. To make this tree look more like a vintage aluminum Christmas tree, I bent the branches so that they were as straight as possible and all pointed slightly upwards like those you see in old photographs. I wanted this tree to look like the aluminum Christmas trees from the 50s, so I thought this Dollar tree was perfect since the branches are a bit sparse, and if you look at the original aluminum trees, they're less full than the traditional trees that we have today. I also wanted vintage-looking ornaments for this tree, so I picked up a box of mini shatterproof ornaments from Walmart that had the color combination I was looking for. I picked out a few of the ornaments that I thought looked most like those from the 50s. And since I forgot to pick up hangers for the ornaments, I made some using paper clips I had in my office. I unfolded one end of the paper clip and put on the ornament. I then twisted the wire in a loop around the hanger that was already on the ornament, and then created a hook with some pliers on the other end. I then cut off the excess wire with some wire cutters and was able to hang the ornaments on the tree. Here's the finished tree. I am so in love with this tree. I've always wanted an aluminum Christmas tree, but the rest of my family don't really appreciate the shine apparently. So I'll be content with this mini faux aluminum tree for my tiered tray. This may be my most favorite out of today's projects. DIY number 4. For this project, I started with popcorn kernels and my son's air popcorn popper. Can y'all tell where this one's going? I put 1 scoop of kernels in the popcorn popper and turned it on and waited for the fun to begin. I did place a medium-sized bowl under the popcorn popper to catch the popcorn as it literally came flying out of the machine. The popcorn used for this project needs to be dry, meaning that it was popped without butter or oil. If you don't have an air popcorn popper, you could use a skillet on the stove with a cover and pop the kernels that way with no salt, butter, or oil added. I would also recommend popping the popcorn a day ahead of when you plan to actually string it, because it's much easier to string without breaking if it's a little stale. I'm also going to be using some fresh cranberries, but if you don't want to use actual cranberries, I'm going to be showing y'all how to paint some wood beads to look almost exactly like cranberries. To paint the wood beads, I used Waverly chalk paint in crimson and folk art chalk paint in rich black. I put a little bit of each color onto a plate and mixed them together on a clean area, and painted it onto the wooden beads. I wanted the beads to be a deep dark red and for it to have streaks of black so that they closely resembled a real cranberry. To string the garland, I used an upholstery needle that I had on hand and some dental floss. Now, you don't have to use an upholstery needle, you can use any needle that you have on hand. And if you would rather use thread or twine instead of dental floss, you can do that as well. I started by threading 3 pieces of popcorn onto the dental floss, followed by 1 cranberry, and repeated this pattern until I had the garland as long as I wanted. I was making this particular garland for a tiered tray, so I did not need it to be real long. When threading the popcorn, make sure you're going through the center, which is the thickest part of the kernel. I also want to mention that I rinsed the cranberries before stringing them and made sure to use only the cranberries that were nice and firm. When I was happy with the length of the garland, I removed the needle and tied a double knot around the first piece of popcorn. Then I cut off the piece of dental floss and tied the other end to the last piece of popcorn, again in a double knot, and cut off any excess dental floss. I wanted this garland to last longer than a few days since I used fresh cranberries, so I took it outside and gave it several good coats of clear acrylic sealer from Mod Podge, making sure to let it dry completely between the coats. I love how this garland turned out. It was quick and easy to make, and it really adds those vintage vibes to my tiered tray. Moving on to DIY number 5. For this project, I used a snow globe gift card holder from Walmart and one of the blue vintage deer ornaments that I picked up at Target. You'll see that I have a pink ornament and some mini trees from Hobby Lobby, but I ended up not using the trees or the pink deer. First, I removed the metal hangers from both deer. These were easy to remove with some needle nose pliers. They just screwed out, and the hole that was left wasn't noticeable at all. Next, I took off the top of the snow globe and then removed everything that was inside. Then I took some Waverly chalk paint in white and painted the inside bottom of the snow globe. It did take about 3 coats to fully cover everything. I ended up using 2 of the bottle brush trees from a package that I picked up at the Target dollar spot instead of the mini trees from Hobby Lobby. To decorate the inside of the snow globe, I hot glued the blue deer in the center of the base. I used hot glue on his hooves and it worked well for me, but you could use E6000 if you wanted a stronger hold. Then I took two of the bottle brush trees that I thought looked vintage and put one in each corner diagonally across from one another. I unscrewed the base of the trees and used hot glue to glue them into place. Again, you could use stronger adhesive if you wanted. While I was working on the decorations, I would put the top back on the snow globe and make sure everything fit nicely. I did end up having to trim up the larger tree in the back so that the top would fit back down nicely. After I had everything attached inside the snow globe and the top fit onto the base, I opened the package of fake snow that came with the snow globe and poured it into the top. I did not think that was enough snow to completely cover the deer's feet or the base of the trees, so I took a package of the fake snow, the one that looks like the little tiny styrofoam balls from the Dollar Tree, and filled up the top a little bit more. Then, with the top still upside down, I replaced the base back inside the top. To secure the top on the snow globe, I used a little bit of hot glue, but you could use a stronger adhesive if you wanted to. I hot glued the top to the base in a couple of places, that way the top wouldn't come off and make a mess when the snow globe was turned over. I really do love how this snow globe turned out. I think the shape is spot on with some of the snow globes from the 50s. It's definitely nothing fancy, but it's still adorable. I may be making a few more of these if I can find some more gift card holders next time I'm at Walmart. Last but not least, DIY number 6. For this project, I started with two of the plastic terrarium planters from Dollar Tree. I painted the inside of one of the terrariums using apple barrel paint in the color Key West, and the inside of the other terrarium using apple barrel paint in the color Cameo Pink. I wanted a nice, smooth, even coat of paint on the inside of the terrarium with no brush strokes, so I used a pour method. I poured some of the paint inside the terrarium and tilted it around until the entire inside was evenly coated. I added more paint as necessary until I was happy with the way it looked. Then I set the terrarium upside down with the opening inside a paper cup and allowed it to drip dry. I repeated this method on both terrariums. To decorate the inside of the tabletop ornaments, I used a snowman figure for one and a Santa figure for the other. I picked up both these figures at Walmart. I also used a set of the green bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree and a package of fake snow also from Dollar Tree. To decorate the pink ornament, I started with the small bottle brush tree and hot glued it in the very back. I did have to bend it down a bit at the top so that it would fit through the opening, but I was able to straighten it back up once I had it glued into place. Next, I hot glued the Santa in the very front of the ornament. I used hot glue for this project, but you could use a stronger adhesive if you wanted. When I had both pieces glued into place, I added just enough of the fake snow so that the base of the tree and the base of the Santa were completely covered and couldn't be seen. I repeated the same steps to decorate the blue ornament, but since I used the larger bottle brush tree, I had to cut it down using some wire cutters. To finish off the tabletop ornaments, I took some white puffy paint from Walmart and went around the openings on both ornaments in a circular motion so that it would look like snow around the openings. It does take this puffy paint a few hours to dry, and it will end up dripping since these ornaments are setting upright, but I think that creates a more natural looking snow. So if you do recreate this project, make sure to set them on a paper towel or scrap paper to dry. Y'all, these tabletop ornaments turned out so cute. I absolutely love them, and I think they're perfect for a 1950s themed Christmas. You can create so many different ornaments using these terrariums that the possibilities are truly endless. Here's the final reveal of my 1950s vintage Christmas themed tiered tray. I'm absolutely in love with how it turned out, and honestly, I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I do. I hope y'all really enjoyed these quick and easy vintage DIYs, and if you did, let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below. It was so hard for me to decide on a favorite, but I think it's the tree. If y'all enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around for a little while. I have tons of projects on the way. Don't forget to head down to the playlist in the description box and check out what all the amazing ladies have for y'all today as well. And as always, I'll see y'all next time.